Assalamualaikum and a very good day to all. Welcome to our presentation on topic 3, Aquinas Theory of Law. Before we begin, let me introduce you to the fellow presenters. First of all, we have Lyana Binti Kamasahpihi, Mohamad Naim bin Ramlee, Nurfarhana Izzati Binti Matros, Mohamad Daniel bin Mohammad Ismail, and Nasrin Safura Binti Sharan. Our presentation in this video would consist of introduction, law and morality, 4 kinds of law, significance of Aquinas theory, and conclusion. Without wasting any more time, let's get started.
Assalamualaikum and hi. I am Lyana Binti Kamasahpihi, metric number 264039. Let us first dive into the introduction to St Thomas Aquinas, specifically on Aquinas' biography and general views. St Thomas Aquinas was born around the years 1224 to 1225 in Roccasecca, Italy, to a wealthy ruling family. He was the 9th and youngest child of the Count of Aquino and Countess of Teano, who was predicted before he was born by a holy hermit to one day become great. He received his primary education at the Benedictine Abbey of Monte Cassino, his higher education at the University of Naples Federico II, and later pursued his studies at the University of Paris. During his time in Naples, he attended the Dominican Church and joined the Dominican Order. Much to his family's horror, though, because they had wanted him to become the abbot of the Benedictine Abbey of Monte Cassino. So they locked him up for 15 months in efforts to make him renounce his profession as a Dominican monk. But to no avail. When he got out, he went to Cologne and became the disciple of Saint Albert the Great, who even defended him when he was mocked and labeled as a dumb ox by his colleagues. And against all odds, Aquinas graduated and received a bachelor's of theology in 1248 and was ordained a priest. He became such a successful teacher in Paris and Rome that he was ordered to attain the degree of doctor. Aquinas had defended the Eucharist and wrote many works, in which his most notable one is the Summa Theologica. Moreover, the prayers that he had written had been sung throughout the centuries. On 7th March 1274, he passed away at the monastery of Fossa Nova after falling sick on his way to the Second Council of Lyons. Almost 50 years later, he was canonized and declared Doctor of the Church in 1323 by Pope Pius V. As mentioned, Aquinas had been in Roccasecca, Cologne, Paris, and Rome. He traveled, written, taught, and preached devotedly as the Christian apostle. Aquinas was both a philosopher and a saint, who fought to reconcile the relationship between philosophy and theology. He preached that anyone can have truths revealed to them through reasoning. That is, non-Christians can also attain wisdom without believing in Jesus, because he knew that not everyone had been exposed to God or the Bible. Aquinas said that both kinds of knowledge ultimately come from God, and both have their own roles in perceiving and proving the existence of God. In regards to the relationship between social behavior and God, St. Thomas Aquinas believed that laws are a natural product of human nature and should be followed in order to eternally preserve our souls in the afterlife. He proceeded to classify laws into 3 types, which are the natural law, the positive law, and the eternal law. The natural law as governing right from wrong, positive law as the state's manifestation of the natural law, and eternal law as one made from reasoning and acted upon free will to achieve meaningful life hereafter. His views still serve as a crucial components for contemporary thoughts because he discussed problems of all people, the medieval intellectuals, the church authorities, and citizens alike.
Thank you very much, Ayu. So first of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Mohamad Naim bin Ramlee, metric number 2610. 1165. So in the previous part, we have learned about St Thomas Aquinas' biography and his general view on law. Hence, in this part, I will discuss about the relationship between law and morality on the view of St Thomas Aquinas. As a devoted Christian, his theories on both law and morality has a great involvement of God. So, without further ado, let us delve into his theory on morality. Moral philosophy is defined as the knowledge on how we ought to live our life. For St. Thomas Aquinas, the end of something is the very beginning of the practical consideration. Hence, morality is the one which will influence our aim for our desired end. Aquinas' theory of morality sprinkled a huge amount of influence from the natural law. According to Aquinas, the good ends are the one that befitting the human agent, and the bad ends are otherwise. To Aquinas, moral action and human action are the same because of God gift to us that have embedded with us the natural inclination for the good. In relation to human and moral activity, Aquinas underlined the concept of rationality. So the rationality will enable human to reason. From reasoning, we will differ the human species from other things like rock, tree, and other that they can't reason. They just follow the natural law that God has set to them. But we can reason, and from that we can reason which act is good and which one is bad. From that we can tell that if the human activity, the activity that we do is good, it must compensate with the virtues. Therefore, rational activity is equivalent to human activity. As I discussed before, Aquinas suggests that we as a human, we have been embedded with a common guideline within ourselves, and it is impossible for us not to retrieve the guideline from inside ourselves. So, the rational activity or the human activity will lead us to moral virtues like prudence, which govern in every our activities, even like cooking, walking, singing. We have to be prudent, and justice in order to preserve our life and the other's life, as well as we have fortitude to ensure us to be brave and not to abandon any risk that we must take in order to achieve common good. And lastly is temperance, to moderate our desire for pleasure. Even though we as a human have the natural inclination to pursue the good and avoid the evil, but we must also note that we as a human, we are possible to deviate from our moral conduct. For example, human do rape, human do vandalism, human do murder and stealing, and the list goes on and on and on. So these actions will be considered as immoral according to St. Thomas Aquinas, because it causes damage to the others. Aquinas also contended that our ability to reason is the rudimentary to the law, and Aquinas has provided us with two ways how for us to perceive the relationship between law and morality, which is the first one. He said that the word law itself, the term law itself, is suggested to presuppose by positive law. So any action that contradicts the positive law will be considered as immoral. Secondly is that moral knowledge bind by natural law that being implanted in ourselves since our birth. So it will lead us to act morally through our reasoning. Therefore, we can depict that Aquinas' moral philosophy or morality can be seen in three stages, which is the first one is natural law precept, the teaching that say that we as a human have the natural inclination to pursue for the good and avoid the evil. And the second stages is a positive law, which means from our natural inclination we generate the positive law, and the third stage is application of the law itself. Hence, to conclude this chapter, we can say that it is a strong relationship between Aquinas' theory of morality and law, and it can be illustrated or depicted in a situation like we as a human, we are subject to divine law, and the emanation of the divine law itself enable us to have this natural inclination for pursuit of good and avoid evil. And this natural law has a similarity to the concept of morality, and from these human able to promulgate their own human law, and which leaders to common good, peace, and harmony in society. So that is all from me, and I will pass to the next presenter.
Next, we will discuss about the 4 kinds of law that have been introduced by St Thomas Aquinas. There are 4 kinds of law that have been introduced by St Thomas Aquinas. The divisions of law can be seen as follows. It includes the eternal law, natural law, divine law, and human law. Assalamualaikum and hi. Firstly, let me introduce myself. My name is Nurfarhana Izzati Binti matric number 263363. Will be presenting about the 4 kinds of law that have been divided by Thomas Aquinas. Firstly, I will explain about 2 parts of it, which is the eternal law and natural law. Firstly, I will talk about eternal law. In eternal law, it constitutes of God, rational guidance of all created things, which is derived from the divine wisdom based on a divine plan. Eternal law, also known as a God perfect plan, which are not fully knowable to human. In eternal law, it determines on how planets and animals should behave and on how human should be behave. Significantly, eternal law oversees the common goods and governs everything, which is, it can be seen when everything in nature reflects the eternal law in their own nature. What I mean here is, the things act according to their nature until they derive the proper end, which is the final cause according to the law written into their own nature. Specifically, the eternal law is the highest kinds of law. In the eternal law, it comprises of those laws that governs everything in nature, which is in the eternal universe. Eternal law can be regarded as a moral law and also the law of nature. On the whole, the eternal law is the law which the God in the creation of man infused into him for his direction and preservation. Secondly, I will talk about the natural law. According to Aquinas, the natural law is about the participations of rational creatures in the eternal law through the operations of reasons. Therefore, human beings use their reasons to lead their life. The natural law is also known as an objective principle, where there is a higher reason that is originated in human nature. Besides, the natural law itself is also universal because it encompasses of every person of every era. Indeed, every man is bound to life by his rational nature, guided by reasons, where the natural law express the dignity of persons and determine the fundamental rights and duty when it's stated in the first principle of natural law, where good is to be done and pursued, while evil is to be avoided. All other precepts of natural law rest upon this, where Aquinas stated that the particular natural law that are good for human, such as self-preservation, marriage, family, and the desire to know the God. Reasons also enable humans to know the evil thing, such as suicide, lying, and adultery. By that, it is necessary for humans to know the moral truth, since mankind is subject to sins, grace, and revelations. According to Aquinas, what is good and evil is derived from the natural nature of human being. So, human being itself who governs their behavior and also reasoning. Evidently, the natural law shows that human beings do have their rights, moral, and responsibility that are inherent in nature. Importantly, the natural law itself is universal and not based on culture or whether it's based on custom.
So, my name is Muhammad Daniel bin Muhammad Ismail, 261187. Continue to my part, which is human law and divine law. So, we focus about Thomas Aquinas talk about the human law, Thomas' philosophy, as we should expect, knowing how much he is in depth to Aristotle, is pervaded with a sense of theology. Nowhere is this clearly or more important than in his discussion of human law. You might think here that he will define human law as what we sometimes nowadays call positive law. The law actually enacted and put in force in our human communities. But in fact, human law fit just those so-called positive laws, which are what written and enacted laws should be. So-called law, which fall short of what they should be, are not true law at all. According to the Thomas, I should hold of giving Thomas' own definition of human law because it relies upon the concept of natural law, to which we will turn to later. We can see now that Thomas thinks of human law as a law devised by human reason, adapted to the particular geographical, historical, and social circumstance. Even though laws are general, they are still adapted to the nature of the community, which is not everyone the same, and to the classes of individuals who make up the society. For example, there may be one set of laws that govern the conduct of trade, another set of law that govern the parent over their children, and another set of the law setting limit on the powers of what passes for the police force. The human law, see Thomas, is not obliged to repress all vices. It's a frame for most people who are far from perfect in virtue. It is aimed at the more grievous vices from which the majority can abstain. For example, like those which are to the heart of others, like murder, thief, and the others. So, with the law to attempt to legislate perfection, it will make people hostile to the law and defeat its purpose. Thomas consider when it may be perceivable to violate the letter of the law, he realized that because it is nature general, the law may require exception. In most cases, they should be made only with consent of political authorities, but there are exceptions even to this rule. When the common good is under unusual peril, human law are subject to change, according to Aquinas, because experience in practical matters may allow us to improve them. So, human law can be changed, and occasionally it should be changed, but it should not be lightly changed. The reason is that respect for the law is largely a matter of custom or habit, and in essential, change undermines this custom. So the common law good is not served by more finely tuned, theoretically better law if people have less respect for the law and follow it less faithfully. So this is what the Thomas Aquinas explained in the he explained in the human law. So we continue to the divine law, which is the second part. According to the Thomas Aquinas, divine law is derived from the eternal law as it appears historical to humans, especially through revelation. When it appears to human being as divine command, divine law is divided into the two parts, which is old law and the new law. And the old law roughly corresponded to the Old Testament of the Bible, and the new law corresponded to the New Testament of the Bible. When he speaks of the old law, Thomas is thinking mainly of the 10 commandments. When he speaks of the new law, he will explain the teaching of the Jesus. So, we can know the difference between new law and the old law, which is old law commands conduct externally, which is reaches human through their capacity for fear, and the law promise earthly the rewards, social peace and its benefit. So when it comes to the new law, it more focus on the command, internal conduct, and reach human by the example of divine love, promise heavenly reward. So this is the part of divine law that be explained by the Thomas Aquinas to be understood by us, and both of this is important in our life, which is human law and divine law. So I will pass to my friend. Thank you.
Significance of Aquinas Theory of Law.
Assalamualaikum and hi, I'm Nasrin Safura Binti Sharan, metric number 261373. Now I will explain about the contribution of natural law to jurisprudence. As we all know, natural law is a philosophical theory that states that humans have certain rights, moral values, and responsibilities that are inherent in human nature. Natural law theory is based on the idea that natural laws are universal concepts and are not based on any culture or any custom. Hence, natural law is applied in moral, political, and ethical system today. It has played a large role in the history of political and philosophical theory and has been used to understand and discuss human nature. The first example of natural law includes the idea that it is universally accepted and understood that killing a human being is wrong. However, it is also universally accepted that punishing someone for killing that person is right. The idea demonstrates that without the requirement of legislation, such beliefs are something that human beings understood inherently as wrong without the requirement of law. Second example is the idea that two people create a child and then they become the parent and natural caregivers for that child. It is something that natural law theory will explain as natural law because it is inherent within human beings. There is no need for any human-made law for humans to feel that they need to act as the caregiver of their child. Moreover, natural law makes humans think wider open reasoning. The natural law is naturally known by natural human reason and experience. We don't need religious, faith, or supernatural divine revelation to know that we are normally obligated to choose good and avoid evil, or to know what good and evil mean. Every culture had some versions of the 10 Commandments. No culture and religion in history has taught that love, kindness, justice, honesty, courage, wisdom, or self-control was evil, and that hate, cruelty, injustice, and dishonesty or uncontrolled addiction was good. For example, all cultures and religions demand humans to be honest, not commit adultery, be nice and take care of our parents, and be a human that can help other people in need. Therefore, it makes human thought and judgment become wiser and more reasonable. Last but not least, natural law is useful in leading society by a middle path to goodness and happiness. When humans understood and applied this natural law in their life, they naturally lead to a goodness and happiness because it demands us to do good and avoid evil. Everything that constitutes by law, such as prohibitions, is obviously an evil. We know it by reasoning and we can evaluate them by ourselves. When people do good and avoid evil and follows the rules, obey the rules, this will make it easier for people to lead a good life and achieve happiness. Also, it will reduce the crime rates in our country. I think that's all from me. I will pass this presentation to Lyana. Thank you.
So what have we learned from all of these? All things considered, it seems reasonable to assume that St. Thomas Aquinas' theory of law had a significant contribution in shaping the way law is viewed today. The law exists to ensure good is done and evil is avoided. Since the 17th century, most of what had been discussed in legal philosophy is revolved around the discourse of natural law, divine law, positive law, and eternal laws. Without legislation, however, we still have the ability to use reasoning to understand whether something is right or wrong. But having law does help in enforcing those reasonings and keeping humans in check.